If you are using these same marketing tactics in 2024 and 2025, you might get left behind. Here are the top 3 that I would be using if I wanted to stay ahead of the curve. If we haven't met before, my name is Corey Hibben, and I've spent the last 5 years helping health brands with their marketing. And so that's exactly what we talk about on this show. And without further ado, let's get into it. All right, number 1 is authenticity. And before you click away, because I know that word is trite and it is vastly overused, I want to paint a picture for you. Are you sick and tired of feeling like whenever you're on the internet that you have to fact check things or you question if it's even real? Well, guess what? Your customers feel the same way. I actually just recently got a message from my girlfriend sending me this video of Elon Musk and Joe Rogan talking. And although it looked real and I was very compelled by the video, I had to look into it and I found out that it was completely fake and it was completely AI generated. And I think a lot of people are feeling this way. And so if that idea of authenticity feels trite, it's becoming even more so true today. Just as a side note, I have a small prediction in the near future that there will be a social media platform that does not allow any AI content. And man, I hope I'm right on that statement. But back to my point about how people are craving authenticity and transparency. Last year, 2024, people were all about the highly edited, highly curated content with all the biz buzz wing things and all the fancy transitions. Well, now this year, the editing is actually less important and the content is more important than ever before. I've said this a few times in previous posts and previous episodes where it used to be about quantity. Now it's way more important about quality. It's just having really good meat and potatoes, really good content. Now, as long as the information's good, people actually don't really care about the color grade or the fancy editing. Not only that, they actually prefer that it doesn't have any of the editing and they want to make sure that it's real and raw. I can safely say this is a trend I am super happy about because personally, I don't like all the highly edited stuff and frankly, I don't want to create a lot of it. So knowing that people are actually craving the more real, raw, and unedited content is a good sign for me and hopefully for you too. Ultimately, though, here's what this means. Insane transparency with the content that you're creating. Personal and relatable stories and showcasing real people getting real results. And so if there's one major trend this year, it is to keep it real, my friends. All right, number 2 is the messy middle. So sadly for me, and I guess sadly for you too, is that the traditional marketing funnel is all but dead. There used to be this era where you could create something, whether it was an ad or a post, that would lead to some sort of funnel where maybe they ended up on your email list, and ultimately they would become a client or customer and purchase from you. Unfortunately now, that middle piece of how they go from finding out about you to ultimately working with you has become very confusing and very convoluted. Now that people are interacting with brands on multiple touch points, it is no longer a linear process. I've seen this firsthand with my clients. They might discover you through an ad or a social media post, and then maybe they go watch a YouTube video or a podcast show like this, and then they run into the owner or the founder at a networking event, and then maybe 2 or 3 weeks down the road, they ultimately decide to work with you or book an appointment with you. The steps from awareness to purchase have now become confusing as hell, and there's multiple places for people to interact with you, and people are becoming honestly just more educated consumers, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing. People really want to know that they understand the brand or the business that they're going to work with before they decide to put their dollar towards it or to ultimately start working with them. And ultimately, here's what this means for you. Be present both online and offline. Be consistent across all touch points, whether that's your social media to different content platforms, your newsletter, YouTube, etc., or even in person, and to embrace the long game. People are going to interact with your brand for a while before they ultimately decide to work with you. So just make sure you're staying consistent and real on all those touch points. Just as a side note, this doesn't mean to be on every single social media platform and to try to be everywhere on the internet. There is still a ton of value in really knowing where you want to spend your time and your energy because you literally can't do it all. The deeper lesson that I'm really trying to get here is that there's a messy middle and there's a winding road to how somebody finds out about you to ultimately becoming a customer and to just really embrace the fact that it's really confusing right now and it's probably going to continue to get worse with even more touch points and more places for people to connect with your brand. And that's okay. All right, number 3 is video domination. So if you are still only doing text and videos, sadly, it's very likely that you're going to get left behind. And the reason that I know this is true is because as somebody who is very active on LinkedIn, if you haven't noticed, now has a video tab on the mobile device anyways, where it works very similar to Instagram Reels or TikToks, where it's like a sliding, swiping video. So if even a platform like LinkedIn is getting into the video game, I can safely say that video is really going to dominate the future of content creation. Don't get me wrong, I think writing is still essential because obviously you're going to be writing the caption, you're going to be writing a script for the video. There's going to be lots of thinking and iterating happening in the writing process, but just make sure to know that moving forward, a lot of that writing will likely be turned into hopefully a video or creating more video content around it. And that's kind of the future that we're going if you're not already creating videos. But ultimately, here's what this means for you. Start with strong writing, like I just mentioned. Embrace more video content. So take some of that writing and put it into video content. That's actually where a lot of the inspiration for this podcast comes from, is I write a weekly newsletter, and oftentimes that gets turned into video, which is the podcast show and then smaller clips from it. And then the third thing is don't be afraid to experiment. Video is a confusing and messy game. And so figure out what works for you and try to lean into what you are seeing work for you personally. And so just as a final recap, be real, be transparent, and build trust. Embrace the complexity of the client journey and the messy middle, and leverage the power of video because that is definitely the direction we're going. Hope this video was helpful. All right, talk to you guys later. Peace.